The winter air in West Des Moines cut sharper than usual the night everything changed. Streetlights hung halos over salt-speckled asphalt, and the gym at the end of the block breathed steam each time the double doors fluttered open. Inside, the squeak of rubber soles never stopped, and the scoreboard threw red numbers across the shiny floor like embers. Caitlin was 9, a ponytail and a purpose, stepping on a court that felt twice as big as the one in her driveway. The ball felt heavier than it did at home. Her heartbeat synced with the metronome of the referee's whistle, and in that rhythm she was sure she knew the future. She would drive right, plant, float the layup high, and the net would whisper yes. Then the game began, and the net learned a new word. No, miss again, dribble off the foot. A rushed pass into nowhere that skittered out by the water cooler. She had never felt the court tilt this way, as if it wanted the other team to win. In the fourth quarter, when everything shrank, time, space, breath, she had the ball for the last possession. The play she loved, the layup she had done 10,000 times over the mailbox in the driveway. She went right, just like she planned. The glass took the ball and set it gently back on the rim, as if placing a teacup on a saucer. Then it slid off. The horn sounded. Girls in the other jerseys screamed, not unkindly, just louder than she could stand. She held it together until she reached the cinder block hallway that funneled toward the exit and the cold. That was where the words she never forgot found her. A dad in a rival sweatshirt chuckled to his son and said, like he was calling a weather report, "That girl's overrated. She'll never make it past middle school ball." The boy laughed because boys laugh when their dads say something like the wind is permanent. Caitlin didn't turn. She didn't even slow. But the sentence took root. By the time she was in the car, buckled, the windows fogging as her parents tried gentle damage control. "Not your fault. Long rim, tough rims here. You'll get the next one." The words were already making a house in her head. She cried later, alone. The kind of cry that is quiet at first and then shakes the whole bed. Her pillow absorbed a small lake. When she finished, she stared at the ceiling and felt the hollow ache of wanting to go back 8 minutes in time and fix everything. That wasn't possible. The only thing she could rewind was her feet. At dawn, when frost crisped the driveway white, the echo of a basketball woke the house. Her dad opened the door in slippers, saw the small shape in the pre-dawn blue tapping the ball, finishing with the same layup she missed, and didn't say what a sane adult would say about warmth and sleep. He wrapped his hands around a mug, leaned on the doorframe, and let the sound of repetition raise the sun. This was where the hidden truth really began, not in one sentence whispered by someone who would never remember he said it, but in the choice of what to do with it. Caitlin wrote it down, not the exact words. She didn't want to carry his voice, but the feeling. She found an old spiral notebook and drew a box at the top of the page. "What I control," she wrote on the left. "What I don't," on the right. On the right, she listed 3 things: what people say, rim luck, calls. On the left, she wrote feet, breath, reps, response. She underlined response twice. In the weeks that followed, she played a new game with herself that had nothing to do with points. Every practiced layup now had a rule. 2 steps, eyes on the top corner of the square, soft touch, land quiet, reset breath before the next rep. If she missed, she didn't rush. If she made 5 in a row, she didn't celebrate. The driveway became a science lab, the notebook, a logbook of a small astronaut learning the gravity of her own mind. When her friends asked her to go to a birthday party at a trampoline park, she went, but left early because she had promised herself 50 form shots off glass before dinner, and promises, once written, meant something now. The next tournament came on a Saturday that smelled like oranges. The gym always smelled like oranges and rubber, and she felt steadier. Not because she was guaranteed to make the next last-second layup, but because she had a plan for the moments that used to feel like riptides. In the second game, she missed a pair of free throws so badly she almost laughed. Instead of spiraling, she touched her wristband like it was a light switch, took one step back, then one step forward, reset her feet, exhaled through her nose, and asked the rim the same question the same way. The ball said yes, then yes again. People think toughness is a growl, a scowl, an alpha stride under bright lights. Maybe later it looks like that. At 9, it looked like penciled check marks in a notebook and a small girl learning never to argue with breath. The hidden truth is not that she swore vengeance on a faceless dad. The truth is smaller and heavier. She learned how to lose without leaving herself. There was a second wound that winter, the kind that doesn't make a newspaper and doesn't look like a wound at first. She joined a mixed scrimmage where the older boys ran hard and called cheap fouls with chests puffed out. One in a bright red hoodie, too, told her to slow down each time she beat him to a spot. "Pass it," he said once, and when she didn't, he reached and hacked her forearm. The sound echoed like a ruler on a desk. She swallowed the sting and kept dribbling. Afterward, while everyone slipped on backpacks and swallowed sugary drinks, one coach, kind at heart, clumsy in delivery, put a hand on her shoulder and said, "You shoot from too far. Just get it to the big kid." She nodded because nodding is easier than teaching adults about range. That night she went home and drew a new box in the notebook. Noise on the right. Signal on the left. She wrote coach intent, help under signal, and method, wrong for me, under noise. Beside it she wrote a sentence she would repeat for years, whispered like a stumble-proofing charm. I listen to truth, not volume. She had been told what girls do and what girls don't from the first time she dribbled in a room full of boys. The court did not care about that. The arc did not care. The line on the floor at 22 feet, 1 3/4 inches, did not care. She fed the part of her that understood math and angles and touch. She let the part that craved permission starve. On a sleepy Sunday in February, the gym's heating system coughed warm air and a ref in an oversized shirt tossed up a jump ball at a city rec final where the stands were half full and the coffee was burnt. Caitlin's team jumped out to a lead. Then the other side pressed and the world went loud again. A trap swallowed her in the corner. The old panic knocked. Here it is, the place where breath shortens. She pushed back with the habit she'd been building in the driveway. Ball to pocket, pivot, chin up, find the diagonal cutter. She oh so simply passed out of the trap as if it were a drill. Midway through the third, the game found her at the top of the key with 5 seconds on the clock and a defender daring her to try. She dipped and rose and let the ball go from a step behind where adults say kids shouldn't shoot. It dropped. It did not solve the world. It did not silence a single person who liked the sound of their own voice. But it placed one smooth stone on the stack she was building inside herself, the stack that would eventually hold up much heavier things. A loss came next. Of course it did, because youth seasons are long and the ball is unfaithful. She went home tired and frustrated, the kind of tired that makes even cereal sound like a project. On the counter sat an old family photo of her as a toddler with a foam ball, cheeks round, eyes huge, grinning like the world was a hoop. She stared at it a long time. It was the first time she understood that the person you try to become should be in conversation with the person you've already been. She had not invented hunger after a bad layup. The tiny kid in the photo already knew something about reaching. Her parents were careful. They spared her the talk about haters and envy and the "we'll show 'em" speech that feels cinematic and fades. Instead, they asked a gentler question. What did you enjoy today? Even on bad days there was an answer. A perfect bounce passed through a window the size of a shoebox. The way the ball feels leaving the fingers when the seams line up. the blank page of a new quarter. She learned to find that answer like a scavenger hunt in messy rooms. Joy is a habit too. As spring thawed, the notebook thickened. On one page, she taped a tiny square of net from an old hoop the city replaced. On another, she wrote the words she refused to say out loud, her private inventory of fears. Miss a big shot, let down the team, flat shot in front of the one coach who could change everything, BC. And as a show-off, her solution for all of them was concrete, not inspirational. Reps, reps, reps. Speak up in practice so the voice is ready under lights. Say good shot to teammates louder than she says bad shot to herself. She wasn't trying to become fearless. She was trying to move fear into a smaller room. A late spring tournament brought another corridor full of strangers and a new sentence she would keep but defang. As she walked by, a teen boy not much older than her said, "That's the girl who shoots from the logo." His tone made it sound like an accusation. She felt the prickle of eyes, the beginning of being known for a thing and judged by it at the same time. She logged it as data. People will name you the first time they notice you. They won't always be right. She decided to define logo for herself. Not a stunt, not a dare, a tool. Use it when the defense shrinks, not to prove a point. A point made to the crowd does not help on the scoreboard. One afternoon, a coach ran a drill where a miss meant push-ups. Motivation, he called it. She understood the intent and hated the result. Players shot trying not to miss, not trying to make. The arc flattened, the exhale shortened. The drill taught fear. After practice, she stayed late alone and replaced punishment with curiosity. Why did that one miss left? Hip. Why did that one die on the front rim? No lift. She wrote in the margin, "I don't punish misses, I study them." The discipline sharpened. The sting softened. The hidden truth kept evolving. It wasn't a single memory now, but a constellation of moments where she chose one small response over another. The day she sprained a finger and learned to shoot with more legs. The morning she timed her breath to the bounce on free throws until the noise in gyms felt like rain on a car roof. Present. Ignorable. The evening she stayed after to rebound for a teammate who'd had a brutal game, saying nothing but here, again, another, letting service wash the salt from her own loss. Then came the first high school summer. Older girls with quicker hands, coaches with clipboards, the smell of fresh tape on ankles, and the future sitting at the end of the bench in polos. Somewhere in that churn, the old sentence returned, overrated, from a different mouth, refitted for a taller audience. It didn't land the same. She felt a flicker, then a quiet answering hum from the stack of stones inside. She ran the next play, lifted from the wing, and when the ball left her fingers, she did not hold the follow-through to prove something to a stranger. She ran back on defense because there was nothing to prove that the next possession couldn't prove better. On a bus ride home from a tournament that blended into a dozen similar tournaments, she watched farmland roll past in green and gold stripes and wrote herself a letter in the notebook she had carried so long the edges were soft as felt. "Dear me at 9, it began. I know you hurt. I know you think that one moment defines everything. It doesn't. It teaches everything. Keep the part that wants to wake up early. Lose the part that thinks the rim owes you. What you control, feet, breath, reps, response, kindness, especially kindness." She didn't show anyone that letter. The strength of it came from privacy. It lived where no crowd could reach it. In later years, when the arenas swelled and camera lenses yawned like mouths, people would say she had swagger, range, vision, a memory like film. Those were the public words. Her private ones were older and less pretty. Land quiet. See both corners. Pass on time. Breathe on purpose. Listen to truth, not volume. There was one last return to the cinderblock hallway where the first sentence had happened. Not the same hallway, just the same smell, the same damp echo, the same parenting advice ricocheting off painted brick. A different dad talked too loudly about a different kid. Caitlin walked past and felt the ghost of the old sting. Then she felt something else, a calm, like a lake at 5 in the morning before oars. She almost smiled. Not because she had won anything that day, but because she understood fully now what the hidden truth had always been pointing toward. You do not get to choose what the world says in its outside voice. You do get to choose what your own voice says back in the quiet, and then you get to practice until the quiet is louder. She stepped onto the court, a little older, a lot steadier, and when the ball found her at the horn with the same math problem, 2 steps, glass, touch, she answered the way she knew how. Soft off the square, land quiet, breathe, turn, get back. The net said yes. The crowd did what crowds do. She let the noise pour over her like a wave and drain off. When she sat in the locker room later, sweat cooling, she pulled the notebook from her bag, turned to a fresh page, drew the box she always drew, and wrote down the only part that mattered tonight. Response. Kept. Fear. Smaller. Joy. Found. She closed it and tucked it away. The past did not go anywhere. It never does. It just learned to sit where she told it. That winter night was only the beginning. Caitlin thought the sting of failure would fade, but instead it lingered like a shadow, shaping everything she did for years afterward. Every time she picked up a basketball, she could hear that father's mocking voice in the back of her mind. She'll never make it past middle school ball. And deep down, a part of her feared he might be right. Her parents tried their best to comfort her. Her mom, Anne, always reminded her, "One bad game doesn't define you, Kate." But when you're 9 years old, words like that don't always sink in. To Caitlin, it wasn't just a missed layup anymore. It was proof she wasn't good enough. The following months were brutal. While other kids spent their winter playing in the snow, Caitlin spent hours outside, dribbling until her fingertips turned raw, running shooting drills until she collapsed into the driveway ice, her breath fogging the frozen air. Her older brothers, Blake and Colin, would tease her sometimes, calling her Coach Clark because she pushed herself harder than any youth coach ever demanded. But there was something else nobody saw: the anger. Caitlin was competitive even as a child, but after that tournament, it became something deeper. If she lost, she wouldn't speak for hours. If she missed an open shot, she'd punish herself by running extra laps in the driveway after everyone else had gone to bed. Her parents worried she was being too hard on herself, but they also knew there was no stopping her. One spring afternoon, about 3 months after the fateful tournament, Caitlin entered another youth game. This time the gym was louder, the crowd bigger, and the stakes higher. A championship for her age bracket. She was nervous, but she hid it under her usual swagger. She remembers standing at the free throw line, bouncing the ball, staring at the rim. Her hands were sweating. Her knees were shaking. And then, from the stands, she heard it again. A laugh. It wasn't the same man from before, but it was enough to trigger the memory. Overrated. The word echoed in her head. Caitlin took a deep breath, focused on the basket, and sank the free throw. That game became a turning point. She scored 27 points, hit the game winner, and earned the tournament MVP trophy. Her teammates lifted her up, and everyone was cheering. But Caitlin wasn't smiling, because she realized something important. No amount of points, no number of trophies, no cheers could erase that one moment of doubt. It would always be there, pushing her forward, whispering, "Not N. Oh, not yet," every time she laced up her sneakers. Years later, when Caitlin entered high school, the pressure only intensified. By then, she was already known locally as a phenom, and recruiters were starting to show up at games. But fame at a young age comes with a price. She remembers one night vividly. A regional semifinal, packed gym, scouts in the stands. She was only a freshman, still figuring out who she was as a player, when she airballed a wide-open three-pointer in the first quarter. The crowd gasped. She could hear whispers, laughter, even a few boos from rival fans. For a split second, 9-year-old Caitlin returned, the little girl who had missed the layup, the one who overheard the mocking voice. Her chest tightened, her hands trembled, but this time, she didn't cry, she didn't break. She locked in. By halftime, she had 18 points. By the end of the game, 33. Her team advanced, and a local newspaper ran the headline the next morning. Freshman phenom Caitlin Clark silences the doubters. She cut out the article and taped it to her bedroom wall, right next to a handwritten note she had kept since she was 9. Never missing that shot again. But Caitlin's toughest childhood memory isn't just about one game, one layup, or one voice. It's about the battle inside her own head, the constant tension between her fears and her ambitions. There were nights she doubted herself so deeply she thought about quitting. One summer, around 8th grade, she had a streak of bad tournaments. Her shot wasn't falling, her passes were off, and the coaches seemed frustrated. After one particularly rough game, she sat on the floor of her bedroom, hugging her knees, thinking maybe basketball wasn't for her after all. Her dad walked in quietly, sat down beside her, and said just 6 words. If it was easy, everyone would. Caitlin never forgot that. It became a mantra she repeated every time she felt overwhelmed. Basketball was supposed to be hard. Greatness was supposed to hurt. And if she could keep going, if she could outlast the pain, the doubt, and the noise, then maybe, just maybe, she could become the player she dreamed of being. By the time Caitlin reached college, that 9-year-old girl was long gone. But the memory of her toughest night never left her. During her freshman year at Iowa, when she broke the record for most points scored by a first-year player, reporters asked her about pressure. She smiled softly and said, "Pressure? I missed a layup when I was 9, and someone told me I'd never make it. I've been playing with pressure ever since." The room laughed. But Caitlin wasn't joking. Every buzzer beater, every game-winning shot, every time she carried her team on her back, it all traced back to that cold Iowa night when she was just a little girl with a duffel bag and a broken heart. And maybe that's why she's different. Some athletes play to prove people wrong. Caitlin Clark plays to prove that 9-year-old girl right.